extremely well this evening. And if not, I hope that I can get your mind off of whatever is bothering you at the moment. Tonight, I've got some scary Reddit stories for you, and they will be of the creepy encounters type. So, get cozy, get comfortable, and get ready to be spooked. With that being said, and of course, as always, without any further ado, let's get into tonight's stories, shall we? Alrighty, so the first story that I've got for you tonight was originally posted by a Reddit user called Liquid Pen Chamber 1019. Their story is called Home Invader Left Us a Terrifying Message. This happened when I was about 10 years old, but even now, as an adult in my 30s, I remember it like it was yesterday. My parents had taken my sister and I out to a movie and then to get ice cream in celebration of my sister getting straight A's on her report card. I remember my dad had gotten off work later than usual, so by the time the movie was over and we had had our ice cream, it was well past our bedtime. Now, it didn't matter though. My parents were happy and proud of my sister. We had a great time and we took our time getting home. And if it wasn't for what happened when we got back there, I would have always looked back fondly on this night. We got home at around 10:30. Now, our bedtime was usually around 10, so I went straight to my room to put on my pajamas while my sister went to brush her teeth. I remember thinking that it seemed more chilly in the house than usual that night, but that's the only thing out of the ordinary that I can recall from when we first walked in. I had barely gotten a chance to change when I suddenly heard my dad yell our names from what I thought was the kitchen. I didn't know what was wrong exactly, but I knew that it was bad because I heard the fear in his voice for the first time ever. Now when I heard that, it scared me really bad. I bolted out of the door and into the kitchen as fast as I possibly could. My sister was already there, and her and my parents were standing very close to each other. My mom looked like she was on the verge of a panic attack, and she motioned for me to come closer. She wrapped her arms around my sister and I, and my dad was already dialing on the house phone. Then I noticed that there was glass on the floor. I asked what was wrong, but she didn't want to tell me. She said we needed to go outside right away. As we headed out the front door, I heard my dad talking to a 911 operator and telling them that when we got home, sliding glass door shattered and objects strewn about the kitchen. We then went to the neighbour's house and we waited for the police to come. After a few minutes, my dad joined us too. He seemed to be well shaken up, which was a new sight to see for me. When the police arrived, they searched our house extensively. It was a big scene with all our neighbours outside and flashing lights illuminating our entire street for hours. Now, they never found anybody in our house. Whoever had been there had come and gone. The thing that really gets to me is that nothing was stolen. Whoever it was didn't want any of our possessions. What they did was take our canned food out of the pantry and stack it into small pyramids on our kitchen counter. They also turned on the TV in the basement and moved a few random objects to different parts of the house. Very creepy. It was like an insane person had been in our home and did things for reasons that only made sense to him. Now, as the police were finishing up and they were ready to leave, I heard one of them ask my mum a question. They talked quietly to each other and I'm sure they thought I didn't hear. I pretended not to be listening, but I heard everything. You see, we kept magnetized letters on our fridge. I think I'd gotten them for a birthday present a few years before, and we used to leave each other little messages, just for fun sometimes. The cop was asking my mum if the message on there that night was done by any of us. It wasn't. I watched my mum turn pale when he told her what it said. It still makes my skin crawl to this very day. It said, "Always watching." The police didn't find any fingerprints. They said the intruder had to have been wearing gloves. For the next few days, the entire family was extremely uneasy. I was absolutely positive the intruder was still in the house somehow. I felt it. That there was a hidden place that nobody knew about, where he could hide and listen to us. I never shook the feeling that somebody was there. Within a few months, we decided to move. It was all just too scary for us to stay in that area, and we moved to a house several miles away. We were never bothered again, but I do still think about it. Was it kids playing a prank on us, or was it some insane person that wanted to torment our family? Or was it someone that truly had it out for us and who was really always watching? Could it have been a neighbour or someone we knew? These questions still keep me up at night sometimes. This happened many years ago, but the hairs on my neck stand up sometimes when I'm alone in the house and I have to check the entire house to make sure that nobody is hiding there. this person, whoever it may be, has actually stepped foot into your property. And then the fact that nothing got stolen and random objects had just been moved, like the canned food in stacks in little pyramids on the kitchen counter, that is always so much more creepy to me than somebody who breaks in and steals things. Because when somebody breaks in and steals stuff, at least you know the purpose of them breaking in and entering your house. But when somebody breaks in while you're out having a great time with your family, and the only thing they do is move objects, stack canned foods into pyramids on the kitchen counter, and leave cryptic messages on the fridge with letter magnets, I mean, what do you make of that? Right? I can understand that the original poster is left with so many questions because I am reading this. I mean, what is the purpose of this? I mean, worst case scenario, it is, something to do with stalking and somebody who is actually keeping an eye on them at all times. I'll tell you what, I can't blame this family for moving. I really can't. I think that I would probably do the same if something like that were to happen to me. It's just too scary, man. Alrighty, moving on to the next one. This story was originally posted by a Reddit user called 6feetbelow. Their story is called Creepy Woodsman. My friend likes to go mushroom foraging, and one time she brought me with her. We got further and further into the woods, getting distracted by cool rocks or different mushrooms or a cool stick or even just talking. We were having a great time, just the two of us in the woods, until we stumbled upon a clearing where a man was sitting, skinning what looked like a deer. I was frozen for a second. I mean, I only moved to this yee-haw-ass town about a year and a half ago. I'm from the Bronx, where you can see some weird things, but I'm definitely not used to the hunting culture. My friend and I were just sort of standing there frozen. The man looked up, covered in blood, and said, it's not safe for girls like you out here, right? He then let out this raspy laugh which instantly chilled me to my bones. He picked up his frighteningly large knife and he just kept skinning this deer. And he was muttering about all the dangerous animals in these woods. My friend and I, we were just nodding, not knowing what else to say or to do. He then looked back up at us and he said, "There's bears, sure. The mountain lions, the fisher cats, and the rabid coons. But the most dangerous thing out here." He leaned forward and pointed his knife at us. Man, it's the most dangerous game there is. My friends and I made eye contact and just scare us for shits and giggles, but damn, it was creepy. I'd like to think he just got fun out of scaring two teenagers, but Jesus Christ, not in the mood for this dude to pull a Robert Hansen. I have no idea who Robert Hansen is. I thoroughly apologise if this is something that I should know. I don't know who it is. This is such a scary encounter. I feel like it could come straight from a film. Can you imagine two teenagers foraging for mushrooms, having fun in the forest, and then stumbling upon this extremely creepy dude? I mean, I'm just imagining him to be like really scruffy looking with like long hair and a plaid shirt, like that kind of thing. And then at first he says nothing, but then he's just flat out scaring them, trying to insinuate that there's dangerous men in the woods who are going to try and kill them, holding a massive hunting knife. This is just wild. This is absolutely wild. Honestly, I think it is more than likely that this guy was actually trying to scare these teenagers for laughs, maybe. Who knows, but I think he was actually trying to scare them. But at any rate, I am extremely glad these two people got out of there without a scratch, even though they must have been extremely scared, because I can't imagine living through that. I mean, you would be absolutely terrified. Alright, the next story is about a really brave dog once again. I love stories where the hero is the dog, but it's extremely scary. Alright, this one was originally posted by a Reddit user called _queer_fox. And their story is called My Roommate's Dog May Have Saved Our Lives. A little background. I'm 29, non-binary, partially deaf, and have terrible anxiety due to PTSD. My roommate, who's a 27-year-old female, Someone was banging on the apartment door about 3 houses down. I was absolutely frozen with fear. I felt the blood leave my face, and my instincts were screaming at me to run. This wasn't a "let me in, I forgot my keys" kind of knock. It sounded more frantic. I had the window open about 2 inches, but used the lock on the bottom to keep it from opening more than that. I could hear this person mumbling to themselves and shuffling their feet around. Then I heard the chirping of my keypad being used. It was very rhythmic, so they were definitely trying actual codes and not just randomly pushing buttons. At this point, Rover had backed up and placed himself directly in front of me, still facing the door. Then the doorknob started to move. Thankfully, they had never entered the right code, so the door was still locked. That's when Rover went into a full frenzy. He rushed to the door, body slamming it while barking and growling. I've never heard a dog make such a noise. I heard the person stumble back, pause, and then giggle. That's what scared me the most. It was like I had been submerged in ice water. I had goosebumps and I felt physically sick. At this point, my roommate had woken up and rushed down the stairs. She saw me frozen on the couch and Rover trying to bust down our metal door to get at whoever was trying to get in. She broke the silence and screamed, "My husband is a cop. We are armed and we will shoot." Now that was a total lie, but it seemed to work as we heard footsteps running away and Rover clicked back to his normal doofus self. I never sleep with a window open downstairs, and I've yet to sleep on my couch since. Wow. I can't imagine what I would do if somebody was actively trying to break into my house with me just sat in the living room. I can't imagine what my reaction would be. I mean, I think lots of people would just sit there and just freeze and just out of sheer terror and wonder what's going on. Let's face it, if Rover hadn't been barking and growling, then maybe the original poster wouldn't even have heard until it was already too late. I'm glad the roommate came to the rescue though, and it is true that sometimes telling a lie scares them off because they don't know if you're bluffing or not. So I'm really, really glad that the roommate came down and ended up managing to chase the intruder away. Now, I've never had anyone trying to break into my house, luckily, but I've had something similar where I've told a lie and it's chased away the creepy dude who was bothering me. I mean, I can't guarantee it's going to work every time, but it's at least something worth trying, right? Because sometimes, as you can see, it does work. Once again, another story that is made 10 times times more creepy by the intruder giggling. It is something about somebody smiling or giggling or laughing in a strange way, firstly, and in like completely inappropriate moments. There's just something about that just freaks me out like nothing else. Alrighty, on to the last story for tonight. This story was originally posted by a Reddit user called ezzysalazar, and their story is called Creepy Voicemail, and I can confirm it is creepy. When I was about 7 or 9 years old, so in 2007 or 2009, I lived with my family in North Carolina. My grandmother on my dad's side of the family lived not far away in Virginia Beach. One summer, we drove down to visit her for a week or so, and I came back home relatively late at night. As my brother and I go into our shared bedroom at the time to set our bags down and get ready to go to bed, we had gone into my parents' bedroom for one reason or another, and my mum and dad were checking the voicemails on the landline. Now, my mum has always been very adamant about having a landline in the house, so that's why we had one. As my mum was flipping through the voicemails, she came across this one that was what sounded like a child's voice singing in Spanish. Now, my mother's native language is Spanish, and her side of the family is Cuban, so she was able to translate it. The translation was roughly along the lines of, "I hope you die suffering." There was no callback number, and my mum was never able to find out who left the message. She didn't know whose voice it was, and she didn't know what the song meant, what they were trying to achieve. Something about the whole thing absolutely terrified me, and I had a hard time sleeping that night. I recently visited my parents' house again for a few days before heading back home after a work trip. It's not the same house though, they've moved since, it's not even in the same state. And I brought it up with my mum again, this incident, to see if she remembers it as well as I do, and she said she vaguely remembers it. It's still one of my creepiest memories, and it freaks me out to this day. Can you imagine just casually going through your voicemails for the day and finding that? It's already scary enough that there would be a child singing on a voicemail on there, but when you understand exactly what they are singing and it is something so disturbing, I mean, that is wild. The only thing I don't understand, if the original poster was about 7, 8 or 9 years old, like that kind of age, why did their mum tell them what the translation for the song was? Like, it wasn't like, let's go hopping through the grass and giggle and have fun. It was, I hope you die in suffering. obviously that mum was in absolute shock as well from receiving that voicemail. I mean, I would be. But it's no wonder that a 7-year-old would get nightmares from that, and it's going to leave an impression. That is so creepy. So creepy. There's just something about children that is just inherently creepy. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying here that all children are creepy. They can be funny and entertaining and, pure. But they also have this ability to be just inherently creepy with some of the stuff that kids can come out with. In fact, I've done an entire creepy stories video on kids' imaginary friends. If you haven't watched that one, you should go and watch it. I'll include the link with this video. But yeah, that is a voicemail I would not like to receive ever in my life. Now sadly, that was it for tonight's scary stories. As always, I would like to thank the wonderful Redditors who allowed me to share their experiences with you guys on the channel. And I would of course like to thank you for choosing to hang out with me tonight and for watching this video. For now though, all there is left for me to do is to wish you